Before today's video, I'd like to announce the winner of our January giveaway. I used Raffle Dash to randomly select one of your comments to determine the winner, and the winner is me. But I didn't think that was very fair, so I chose again. Then the winner was my girlfriend. That didn't seem very fair either, so third time's the charm, and the real winner is Andrew Hitchcock. Congratulations. I will be reaching out to ship you this Pokemon diorama as soon as possible. If you would like a chance to win our next giveaway, stick around for more details on that later. On this episode of Jumpstart Hobbies, I'll be using new paints, tools, and techniques to create our first LED lit diorama. Now to our story. A beacon is transmitting from deep in the southern hemisphere of planet Ares. An exploration crew has been sent to investigate the signal. Members of the crew include Sergeant Tim Bradford, xenologist Dr. Sigler, and senior engineer Hank. We'll pause the story here to get these files sliced and sent to the printer. And while they're getting ready, let's pick out our colors for this project. Once the paints have been selected, I clear the desk. Let's get to work. I start by priming them black before using some white ink to give the models a zenithal highlight. Then I use dark gray blue to paint their backs in shadow. With the airbrush work done, I move to the paint desk to continue our story. Exploration suits are standard issue colored orange and white. With Sergeant Bradford in position, let's take some orange here and just... there we go. Now for Dr. Sigler and Hank. Now for the equipment. Dr. Sigler's flashlight and radar. And Hank's flashlight and toolbox. Now that our exploration crew is ready for action, it's time to build the Ares landscape. We'll start with a wooden base and some foam to create our elevation. I soldered up a battery box and toggle switch to an LED filament seen here. When I build the base layer, I cut pockets in the foam to hide these components later. Then I cut grooves in the foam to route the wires. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for weekly content like this. Once the foam is cut into the right shapes and sizes, I use Mod Podge to glue the pieces to the wooden base. Here I use a foam cutter to shape these pieces for our scene. Ares is a frigid planet of ice and snow. Our explorers will discover a path leading to a cave-like formation. Then I start working on the structure itself. I cut the pieces needed for the walls and the roof. Our team will discover the mouth of the structure to be frozen over with a sheet of ice. To create this, I use an old plastic container and cut out a flat piece as our wall. Here I cut the foam walls to match the height of the frozen face. Then I trim the plastic to sandwich it in between two pieces of foam. I glue the electrical components into place. Then I glue the walls down before making a mix of Mod Podge, plaster, and water. I coat everything with this mix to seal the foam and smooth out the landscape. Then I use the mix to attach some pillar type pieces that I cut into shape off camera. I'll be using these to sandwich the plastic sheet into place. I use a mix of glue and black paint to bond the roof pieces and color the rest of the structure. Over the course of the project, I changed my mind a few times about how to paint the scene. When the pieces are coated black, I use the foam cutter to shape the roof to match everything else. To seal the roof better and to color the structure like stone, I make a gray mix and loosely apply it to the piece. To give the plastic sheet a frozen look, I use layers of Mod Podge to give a frosted surface appearance, followed by translucent and opaque layers of white for thicker frost. I use the white to touch up the black marks on the area where snow will be. Then I start experimenting with my landscape color. I picture the night sky coloring the snow a dark gray blue like the backs of the explorers. So I mix snow texture with glue and paint to apply this colored layer to the ground and roof. The glue and snow ended up lightening the color too much for my liking, so I darkened it later with straight paint. Now to discover the source of the beacon signal, an alien race of advanced technology. After slicing and printing this metal creature, we head back to the paint booth to bring it to life. I tested a couple things here that didn't quite work, but we'll get there in the end. I should have started with a black primer, but I had already done my zenithal highlight and I went over that with silver. Then I tried to push the contrast by adding a coat of a black wash to the model. This ended up staining the model a little more than I expected, so I had to spray it again with some silver to bring the shine back. To show the power inside the creature, I want to create a glowing red light from the model's arms, eyes, and mouth. I do this by spraying white in the areas I want the light to be the brightest. Then I use fluorescent red to create the effect. Back to our terrain piece, I make another colored layer of snow with red paint to accentuate the red glow of the creature. This mix lightens the color like the shadowed snow, so I use paint to push this red color. At this point, I was very unsure of how good this was going to turn out, but I kept painting, knowing I could just cover it up if I didn't like it in the end. That's when I realized the shadow should be affecting the whole piece, so I did a rough dry brush effect of the shadow color all over the previously colored stone. When that was done, I mocked up where my explorers would be and marked where their flashlights would be shining. Pushing the OSL, Object Source Lighting, effect would be the key to pulling this diorama together. With the light marked, I tape a piece over the frozen wall to shield it from any possible overspray. Then I use a V-cut sheet of paper to airbrush the pale yellow light of the flashlights on the ground. After the airbrush work, I touch it up a little with a paintbrush and decide it looks pretty convincing. Then I push the shadows in the scene further by using dark blue to paint shadows of the structure and explorers on the ground. To cover the electrical components of the diorama, I measure and cut a sheet of adhesive foam as the floor of the box, making sure to cut slits around the battery compartment to lift for battery changes in the future. To cover the entire back of the project, I use some black foam core board and cut it to size. Then I cut a notch so the toggle switch will be accessible. You can see me attaching the piece with museum putty here, but off camera I swapped to blue poster putty because it has a stronger bond. Since there will be a red glow coming from the cave, I need to show that on the face shields of our explorers. So I bring Sergeant Bradford back to the paint desk and get to work on creating the red light reflection. As I work, I like to imagine the curiosity and horror on the faces of our explorers. Or maybe anger with this particular soldier. When Bradford's face shield is finished, I take my magic brush and copy it to Hank and Dr. Sigler. With everything painted and built, I just need to glue everything into place. And now it's time for the big reveal. If you want to win my next diorama giveaway, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which available diorama you would like to win. On February 1st, I'll choose one of your comments to win the selected diorama. Details in the description below. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.